The rudder jammed high in the sky.
Pilots fought the controls, but nothing worked.
404 lives were at risk. Then a quiet 12-year-old girl stood up and walked into the cockpit. She looked at the pilots and said, "My dad's an engineer. I know how." Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. Skyline Flight 219 left Seattle for London with 404 people on board. It was a big plane, a wide-body jet made by a company called North Air Aviation. The sky was clear. The passengers were calm. Some slept. Some watched movies. Nobody knew that in a few hours, this normal flight would turn into a fight for survival. In seat 18D sat a 12-year-old girl named Maya Harrison. She had 2 brown braids and wore a purple hoodie with a small rocket printed on it. Her white sneakers had little airplanes drawn on them in black marker. On her lap was an old notebook full of drawings. Not drawings of cartoons or animals, but drawings of engines, wires, and pipes. Most kids her age liked games or cartoons. Maya liked airplanes. She had liked them since she was 6 years old, when her father used to take her to work. Her father, Daniel Harrison, was an engineer. Not just any engineer. He was one of the top hydraulic systems engineers at North Air Aviation. He built the systems that helped planes turn left and right in the sky. He used to bring Maya to the factory on weekends. While other kids played with toys, Maya sat inside real airplane parts, learning how they worked. Her father did not treat her like a little kid. He treated her like a student who could understand anything if she tried. One day, 2 years before this flight, her father showed her something serious. He took her near a big metal part called the hydraulic power control module. It was the part that controlled the rudder, the flat piece at the back of the plane's tail that helps it turn. "This part is very important," he told her. "If the rudder does not work, the pilot cannot easily turn the plane." Maya asked him if there were backup systems in case one part failed. Her father's face changed. He looked serious. "Yes, there are backups," he said, "but I found a small weakness in this one part. Under certain conditions, it can crack. If it cracks, the rudder can get stuck." Maya asked if he told the company. He said he did. He wrote reports. He showed them numbers and tests. But the company said the chance of this happening was extremely small, almost impossible. They said fixing it would cost too much money and take too much time. So they said no. Her father was not happy with that answer. He believed the real risk was higher than what the company said. So he did something on his own. He designed a secret backup plan, a step-by-step method that could fix the problem if it ever happened during a flight. He drew it all on paper by hand. The company did not approve this plan, because if they approved it, they would be admitting that the risk was real. He gave the paper to Maya. "Keep this safe," he told her. "Do not show it to anyone. I hope you never need it, but if you do, you will know exactly what to do." Maya did not fully understand why her father was scared, but she promised to keep the paper safe. A few months later, her father died in a car accident. The report said his brakes failed. Maya was very sad, but she also felt something else. She felt that this was not just an accident. Her father was always careful. He checked his car every week. It felt strange to her, even though she was only a child. After his passing, Maya kept her promise. She kept the folded paper in her backpack every single day. She also began studying harder than before. She read her father's old books. She practiced solving engineering problems that were made for adults, not children. She wanted to understand everything he understood. It became her way of staying close to him. 2 years passed. Life moved on, but Maya never stopped learning. And that is how she ended up on Flight 219, sitting quietly in seat 18D, holding the same worn blueprint her father once gave her. 4 hours into the flight, everything changed in 1 second. The plane suddenly jerked hard to one side. It was not turbulence. It was violent and sharp. Bags fell from the overhead bins. Drinks spilled. People screamed. Maya felt her body pull sideways, and her pencil rolled onto the floor. But she did not panic like the others. She sat still and paid attention. She had felt something like this before. Not in real life, but in the flight simulators her father had once let her try. The captain's voice came over the speaker. Her voice sounded calm, but Maya could hear the tension hiding underneath it. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are dealing with a flight control issue. Please remain seated with your seatbelts on." The cabin filled with fear. Parents held their children close. Some passengers cried quietly. Maya undid her seatbelt and stood up.
Sit down!
The woman next to her said, grabbing her arm.
I need to go to the cockpit, Maya said. I know what is wrong with this plane.
The woman thought she was a scared child talking nonsense. But Maya moved through the aisle anyway, small and fast, slipping past nervous passengers. A flight attendant named Sarah stopped her halfway. "Sweetheart, you need to sit down," Sarah said gently.
The lower rudder is jammed,
Maya said clearly.
It is a hydraulic module failure. The pilots are using engine power and wing controls to keep the plane balanced, but they cannot hold it like that for long.
Sarah froze. She had never heard a child speak like this. "Who are you?" "My name is Maya Harrison. My father was an engineer who helped design this aircraft's rudder system. He warned the company this could happen one day." Sarah looked into her eyes and saw something unusual. One not fear, but total confidence. She made a quick decision. "Come with me."
In the cockpit, Captain Elena Ruiz was fighting the controls with both hands. Her arms were shaking from the effort. Beside her, First Officer Daniel Osei searched through the emergency manual, but nothing matched what was happening. The rudder was jammed, but the hydraulic pressure looked completely normal, a situation that, according to the manual, should not even be possible.
"There is no listed procedure for this," Osei said, worry clear in his voice.
At that moment, Sarah opened the door. "Captain, there is a girl outside who says she knows what's wrong. She says her father designed this rudder system." Captain Ruiz did not have time to argue. "Send her in." Maya stepped into the cockpit. She was so small she could barely see over the front panel, but her eyes moved quickly across the instruments. She looked at the rudder position display. She looked at the hydraulic pressure readings. "My dad's an engineer," she said calmly. "He built this rudder system. I know how to fix it." "You have a jammed lower rudder," she continued. "The hydraulic pressure is normal, but the actuator is physically stuck. This is exactly what my father warned about 2 years ago."
"Warned who?" Captain Ruiz asked.
"North Air Aviation. He wrote 6 reports. He showed them the numbers. They said the chance of failure was too small to worry about. They were wrong."
First Officer Osei stared at her. "How do you know all this?" "Because my father designed a fix for this exact problem, and the company never approved it, but he gave it to me before he died." She reached into her backpack and pulled out the old, folded blueprint. She opened it flat on the small table between the pilots. The paper showed drawings of pipes, valves, and a step-by-step written plan in her father's own handwriting. "There's a valve in the equipment bay called HC7, Maya explained. "If you close it, it will cut off hydraulic flow to the broken part. Then there is a backup pump you can turn on. It will send pressure to the upper rudder instead. The plane will fly heavier and slower to respond, but it will fly." Captain Ruiz looked at Osei. Her arms were burning with exhaustion from holding the controls. They had very little time left, and no other option.
"Go," she said. "Do exactly what she tells you." Osei grabbed a radio and rushed toward the back of the plane. He opened a floor hatch near the rear galley and climbed down into a tight, noisy space filled with pipes and cables. Maya stayed on the radio, guiding him calmly. "Follow the red pipe," she said. "You'll find a valve with a red handle. Third from the left. That's HC7. Turn it fully clockwise." The valve was stiff and had not moved in years. Osei pushed with all his strength until it finally turned with a loud metal screech. "Valve closed," he said. "Good," Maya replied. "Now look above it. There's a small pump box with a red safety cover. Lift the cover and press the button underneath. Hold it for 3 seconds. Osei found the switch, lifted the cover, and pressed it. Deep inside the aircraft, a backup pump roared to life. In the cockpit,
Captain Ruiz felt the rudder pedals respond under her feet.
I have control! She shouted. It's working!
The violent shaking stopped. The plane steadied. It was not perfect 6. The controls felt heavy and slow 6, but it was flyable. You'll need to land faster than normal, Maya said. About 20 knots faster, with a steeper approach. And you cannot land in strong crosswinds. You need calm wind.
Captain Ruiz radioed air traffic control and requested an emergency landing at the nearest airport with calm winds. Emergency vehicles lined up along the runway. Passengers were told to prepare for a hard landing. Many held hands. Some prayed silently. While the plane flew toward the airport, Maya did not leave the cockpit. Captain Ruiz told her to stay, just in case something else went wrong.
Maya sat quietly in the small fold-down seat behind the pilots, watching every number on the screens. Her hands were shaking a little now that the danger had eased for a moment, but her mind stayed sharp. She kept checking the temperature of the upper rudder actuator, because her father had once told her that a part working overtime could get too hot and fail on its own. "Temperature is rising," she said after some time. "It's at 190 degrees. The limit is 220. You're okay for now, but please avoid any sudden turns."
Understood,
Captain Ruiz said, adjusting her movements to be gentler on the controls. First Officer Osei climbed back up from the equipment bay, his uniform soaked with sweat, his hands shaking from the effort of turning the stiff valve. He dropped into his seat and looked at Maya with wonder. "How old are you again?" he asked. 12, Maya answered. 12 years old, and you just saved this whole plane, he said, still catching his breath. Maya shook her head. "My dad saved it. I just remembered what he taught me." Outside the windows, the mountains slowly turned into flat farmland, and then the lights of the airport came into view. Fire trucks and ambulances lined the runway, ready for anything. Inside the cabin, flight attendants walked down the aisles one last time, checking seatbelts and reminding everyone to keep their heads down and hold their ankles when the wheels touched the ground. Some passengers cried quietly, others whispered prayers. A few held the hands of strangers sitting next to them, united by the same fear and the same hope.
Captain Ruiz kept both hands firmly on the controls, flying the plane manually the entire way down, refusing to trust the autopilot with such a damaged aircraft. Maya stayed silent now, her father's blueprint held tightly against her chest, waiting to see if his design would truly work until the very end. 40 long minutes later, the wheels touched the runway. It was not smooth, but it was safe. The plane rolled to a stop. For 1 second, there was total silence. Then the entire cabin erupted into cheers, cries, and applause. Captain Ruiz turned to Maya, whose face was wet with tears. "Your father would be so proud of you," she said softly.
"We did it, Dad," Maya whispered. "Just like you said we could."
In the days that followed, investigators studied the aircraft and found exactly what Maya had described. 6, a cracked part in the lower rudder system, the same weak point her father had warned about years earlier. When they looked deeper, they found his old reports, buried and ignored. They also reopened the case of his car accident. New tests on the brake lines showed signs that did not match a normal accident. At a press conference days later, reporters filled the room to hear from the girl who had saved 404 lives. Maya sat calmly, her father's blueprint spread on the table in front of her. "My father tried to warn them," she said. "He did everything right. He wrote reports. He showed proof. But they said fixing it would cost too much, so they said the risk was acceptable. He believed that no risk is acceptable when people's lives depend on it. He gave me this blueprint because he wanted someone to be ready, just in case." A reporter asked how she felt being called a hero. "I'm not a hero," Maya said. "My dad is the hero. I just remembered what he taught me."
Another reporter raised her hand. "Maya, are you angry at the company?" Maya paused before answering. "I am angry that they knew about the problem and did nothing. I am angry that a report full of proof was called low priority. But I am not angry at engineering. Engineering is not the problem. People who ignore warnings are the problem." A third reporter asked what she would say to other kids watching this story on the news.
I would tell them to listen carefully to the people who teach them, Maya said. My dad did not just teach me facts. He taught me to care. He taught me that knowledge is only useful if you are brave enough to use it when it matters. I was scared on that plane. I was scared walking into the cockpit. But I was more scared of what would happen if I stayed quiet. The room stayed silent for a moment, then filled again with the sound of camera shutters clicking one after another. Weeks later, safety regulators required every aircraft with the same part to be inspected and repaired. New rules were created to protect engineers who raise safety concerns, so their warnings could never be silently buried again. People began calling it Maya's Law. Years later, Maya became an engineering student, following the same path her father once walked. She still carried his old notebook with her, filled with drawings of engines and valves. She often told younger students the same thing her father used to tell her. Every bolt, every wire, every valve is a promise that people will get home safe. And because a father once took the time to teach his daughter everything he knew, and because a brave 12-year-old girl remembered every word of it, 404 people went home safe to their families that day.